64 men, cut off, surrounded by 2,000 enemies, and they chose to fight to the last bullet. This isn't a movie, this was real. In 1863, during the French intervention in Mexico, a small patrol of 65 French Foreign Legionnaires was ambushed near a tiny village called Camaron. Their mission? Escort a supply convoy, but they were cornered by over 2,000 Mexican troops. Instead of surrendering, Captain Jean d'Anjou, a one-handed veteran with a wooden hand, gave a speech. "We will not yield, we fight to the death." What followed was one of the most legendary last stands in military history. The Legionnaires took cover in a nearby hacienda and held off wave after wave of attacks, running out of water, ammunition, and food. Captain d'Anjou was killed, but his men kept fighting for over 10 hours. When only 3 Legionnaires remained, wounded and out of bullets, they charged with bayonets. The Mexican commander, Colonel Milan, was so impressed by their bravery that he spared the survivors and said, "They are not men, they are devils." To this day, Camaron Day is a sacred event in the French Foreign Legion, honoring courage, loyalty, and brotherhood against all odds. How do 500 men, trapped on a hill, survive against 13,000 enemies? In June 1953, during the Korean War, a brutal stalemate happened. A forgotten patch of earth, Outpost Harry, becomes the battleground. A hill so small, it barely appears on a map. 500 U.S. and Greek soldiers sent to hold it. As night falls, 13,000 Chinese troops surge forward. Waves of gunfire, grenades, brutal hand-to-hand fights. The ground shakes, the sky burns. For 8 nights they fight, no reinforcements, no retreat, only survival. 1 hour at a time, 1 breath a moment. At dawn of the last day, battered and bloodied, Outpost Harry still stands. The defenders, outnumbered 20-1, refuse to be erased from history, answering the question. For one moment, 2 nations stood side by side. On April 25, 1945, near a ruined bridge over the Elbe River, U.S. and Soviet troops met for the first time. No orders, no speeches, just hands extended, muddy, bloody, shaking with exhaustion. But how did sworn strangers, fighting on opposite ends of Europe, end up here? Some came from Omaha, others from Stalingrad. What united them wasn't language or politics, it was a shared cause. A war that chewed through friends, brothers, entire cities. They didn't need translators. Just one gesture was enough. We made it together. And in that frozen instant, before the Cold War, before the walls, 2 worlds reached out and touched history. The world was ending, but 90 Russian paratroopers on a snowy hill in Chechnya, surrounded, outnumbered, outgunned, and no one's coming to help. This was Hill 776, February 2000, the Second Chechen War.
Мы с вами не имеем права позволить ни секунды слабости себе. Ни секунды. Потому что если мы это сделаем, то тогда те, кто погиб, тогда получается, что они погибли напрасно.
Russia wanted control of the Argonne Gorge, a key rebel supply route. To block it, they sent the 6th Company of the Pskov Airborne Division. The paratroopers moved in, but the intelligence was wrong, or ignored. Over 1,000 Chechen fighters had fortified the area, and they were ready. By nightfall, the forest erupted. Gunfire, RPGs, mortars. The company was caught on a ridge, exposed, no cover. Their radios barely worked. Reinforcements were hours away, and air support was called off due to fog. They dug in. For 17 hours they fought, wave after wave. Firefights at some point were happening at the distance of 2 meters away. When bullets ran dry, they used grenades. When those ran out, some drew knives. Experiencing brutal hand-to-hand combat, Captain Alexander Romanov, wounded and out of options, radioed coordinates, his own position, and called in artillery. By morning, the hill was scorched and only 6 men survived. The rest posthumously awarded. Russian state media hailed them as heroes, but the orders, the planning, and the intel were never fully explained.
Конечно, после драки кулаками не мажут. Но надо градом ебануть, блядь. Артуха, нахуя она в горы полезла? Хуй ей там делать в лесу, блядь? Она должна сюда долбить, блядь. Сраный кусок села не можете взять. Командиры, блядь.
It is a story of heroism and courage, yet many still guess, why were? No roads left, so they made one across death itself. Surrounded, starving, frozen. For 872 days, Leningrad was under siege, cut off from the world by Nazi forces. Over 1 million civilians would perish in this brutal siege. But one frozen path across Lake Ladoga kept the city breathing. The road of life wasn't a road, it was a gamble. Trucks carrying food and medicine raced across a frozen lake under constant artillery fire and minus 40 degrees Celsius winds. One wrong turn meant plunging into black water and vanishing under the ice. The ice split, the shells fell. Still, they pressed forward, boys too young to shave, men too old to fight, delivering hope and returning with sorrow. Famous poet Olga Berggold said, "There is no greater monument than the tire marks on that ice. Some convoys vanished without a trace. Others made it through, only to turn back again, without sleep, without heat, all while Grim Reaper was chasing their wheels." In 1942 alone, over 360,000 people were evacuated using this road, and over 500,000 tons of food and ammo were delivered across it. Even the lake itself tried to stop them, sometimes cracking open mid-journey. Yet they drove, because behind them 3 million hearts waited in silence, depending on their return. We remember the soldiers who fought, but not enough remember the drivers, the unsung heroes with frostbitten hands and nerves of steel. This wasn't just a frozen road, it was a lifeline, a graveyard, a legacy. This was the road of life. "30 below zero, 15,000 Marines, 10 Chinese divisions closing in. Late November 1950, Korean War. The 1st Marine Division has driven deep into North Korea, near the Chosin Reservoir, certain the conflict is nearly won. Then, under moonless skies and biting wind, 10 Chinese divisions strike, surrounding the Marines in the mountains. Temperatures plunge to minus 30 degrees Celsius. Gun oil freezes, morphine turns solid, and frostbite claims fingers before bullets do. The Chinese attack in waves, blowing bugles in the blizzard. Marines fire until rifles ice over, then warm magazines beneath their uniforms. Colonel Louis Chesty-Puller says,
"They're on our left, they're on our right, they're in front of us, they're behind us. Surely they can't get away this time."
For 17 days, they battle ridge by ridge, dragging wounded on makeshift sleds, fighting through night ambushes, and defending a single narrow road. Engineers airdrop bridge sections at Funchalen Pass so the convoy can keep moving. Trucks become ambulances. Flamethrowers carve paths through snow-packed bunkers. When the column finally reaches the coast, 15,000 Marines have brought out every wounded man and every fallen brother, losing 1,000 dead, 3,500 wounded, and inflicting an estimated 40,000 casualties on the enemy. Historians call it a fighting withdrawal. The survivors call it proof that sometimes endurance itself is victory. Hey everyone, and welcome. I'll be honest, I've always thought my voice wasn't quite right for voiceovers. That's why I've been using AI for now. But this channel started as a small passion project driven by my love for history. And it's grown faster than I ever expected. So thank you, truly. I'm constantly working to improve the quality, and I've got plans to upgrade my mic soon so I can finally narrate the videos myself without relying on AI. This video is a compilation of my short-form work, stitched together so you can sit back and enjoy them all in one go. Thanks again for being here. It means a lot, and I hope this channel becomes a place where more people who love history can connect.